We are here regarding dockets 0339 and 0388. Oh, I have that right? Yes, right. Sorry about that. Yeah. I'd like to just remind folks that this is a public hearing. It is being both recorded and broadcast on both Comcast and RCN. I'd ask folks to silence their electronic devices. And at the conclusion of the presentation and question and answer period, we will take public testimony. The sign-in sheets are to my left by the door. We ask that you state your name, any affiliation, and address. I'd like to introduce, in order of their arrival, to my left, my good friend from Back Bay is Josh Zakem, and my good friend from Hyde Park, Councilor Tim McCarthy. 0339, message in order authorizing the City of Boston to submit to the Mass School Building Authority, otherwise known as MSBA, statements of interest for accelerated repair program for the following schools: Shiddick Elementary School, East Boston High School, James Curley K-8, Joyce Kilmer K-8, Marshall Up Academy K-8, O'Donnell School K-5, Oliver Perry K-8, Russell School K-5, Sumner School K-5, Timothy Middle School, and Tobin School K-8. The statements of interest describe and explain the deficiencies and priority category for which the City of Boston may be invited to apply to the Mass School Building Authority in the future. Docket 0388, message and order approving appropriations of $9,202,181 for the purpose of paying for the cost associated with roof and boiler replacement projects at the following schools: Boston Latin School, partial boiler replacement; James F. Condon Elementary School, boiler replacement; John W. McCormick Middle School, roof replacement; Paul Dever Elementary School, roof replacement; and the William F. Channing Elementary School, boiler replacement. This includes the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto, and for which the City of Boston may be eligible for a grant from the Mass School Building Authority, said amount to be expended under the directions of the Public Facilities Department on behalf of the Boston Public Schools. I want to welcome both Brian McLaughlin and Carlton Jones, and you can take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Siomo, Councilor Zakem, and McCarthy. Carlton Jones, Executive Director of Capital and Facilities Management for Boston Public Schools. And on behalf of Superintendent Tommy Chang, I'm glad to be here once again before this body to accelerate our acceleration of our participation with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. As you know, we've partnered with them several times in the past, and we look forward to continuing to do so as it relates to our accelerated repair projects, as well as the core projects that we put before the Massachusetts School Building Authority, also known as the MSBA. So I'm here with my colleague, Brian McLaughlin, who's going to go through the actual proposals that we are submitting, the SOIs that we've put forth, that we're asking for you to act on. And then I'm available for questions as well as Brian.
Thank you, Carlton. Thank you, councilors.
Thanks.
As Carlton indicated, we're here relative to the 2017 submissions for the Accelerated Repair Program for the Massachusetts School Building Authority. The MSBA is a state authority that oversees funding of capital school projects for public schools in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The MSBA is a reimbursement agency. It works with local communities to create fiscally responsible, educationally appropriate, energy-efficient schools throughout Massachusetts. It's funded through 1 cent of the 6.25% sales tax. The first step in the MSBA process is the statement of interest, and that is what they call their application. The SOI, the statement of interest, allows districts to inform the MSBA that there are certain issues within a building that are preventing the district from delivering the educational program as desired. MSBA has 2 programs: the Accelerated Repair Program, which we're here before you today, and the core program. Accelerated Repair Program is for strictly roof, window, or boiler replacements in facilities, and the core program is for a scope of work beyond those three building systems, significant addition renovation projects, major renovation, new school construction. Within the accelerator repair program, there are certain requirements that facilities have to meet in the systems that we're looking to be replaced. The building system has to be over 20 years old. The scope of work has to be over $250,000. The building has to be used for educational purposes. It can't be an administrative building or a field house, something of that nature. It can't go beyond the scope of just roof, windows, and boilers. And specific to boiler projects, none of the work goes beyond the boiler room. So there's no HVAC scope that's included in these projects. The projects that we're looking to move forward and submit this year, we went through with the BPS facilities and maintenance team, including Carlton, Khadijah Brown, Brian Chambers. We wanted to make sure that we were putting forth schools that fell within the requirements of the ARP program. And we made sure that they were all over 20 years old. The scope was beyond $250,000. And finally, we used the data that we gathered during the Build BPS exercise this past summer and made sure that these buildings were structurally sound, and other than the fact that they might need a system replacement, they were in good working order and provided good educational environment for the students and the teachers. So the 11 schools that we're looking to submit to the MSBA this year is we're looking for window projects at the Chittick, Kilmer, Marshall, Up Academy, and Oliver Perry. New boilers at East Boston High School, O'Donnell School, Sumner, Timothy, and Tobin, and roofs at the Curley and the Russell. Moving forward, we submitted these statements of interest to the MSBA by their February 17th deadline, and we're looking to have a vote of the City Council this upcoming Wednesday, weather permitting, as well as the school committee. The hard copy submissions to the MSBA must be accompanied by every district in the Commonwealth's local governing boards. So for the City of Boston, it would be the City Council and the school committee. I know this will be the third round of accelerated repair program projects that we put forth to the MSBA. I know Mayor Walsh has made it a priority to try to capture as much money from the MSBA as possible moving forward. So this is something that he's very interested in.
Great. Let me recognize that we've been joined by our friend from East Boston, Councilor Sal Lamartina. Thanks for that presentation, and we applaud both the mayor, his administration, and the school department for partnering on these much-needed boiler and roofs and windows. Could you explain some of the deficiencies that are part of what triggers the need? Other than the 20 years, are we seeing some really bad conditions out there?
Sure. I know working with BPS's team, they've identified some of the schools. Well, if it's a roof replacement, there's significant leakage. Sometimes there may need to be buckets in classrooms. So we'd like to address the roofs that present the most need. Similar to the windows, there could be leaking involved with them, air entering through the windows that may need to be sealed up.
Right.
There are also some of the windows present a safety concern because some of them have lost some of their hinges and can't stay up on their own.
Right.
And with the boilers, there may be some uneven heat distribution, just old units that need a lot of care just to keep them online.
Right.
So those are the types of building systems that we're looking to replace through this program.
Right. We've just been joined by Councilor Matt O'Malley as well. So this is two dockets. The second docket is actually further along in the accelerated repair program.
Yep.
So could you kind of go through maybe the
Sure.
timeline, because it's great to illustrate that here's the beginning of another process to avail ourselves of. It's about 65% reimbursement.
Correct.
And we have some in the pipeline that have moved into the actual renovation stage.
Sure. Stepping back, so 2015 was the first year we submitted for the accelerated repair program. In the past, BPS submitted under the green repair program, which was a precursor to the ARP. In 2015, City of Boston submitted 7 statements of interest to the MSBA. all 7 were approved. It accounted for about $25 million of window replacement work, and we're going to recognize about $16 million in reimbursement from the MSBA. So out of $25 million, we're paying about 9,
Right.
which is a really good story there. And they'll likely go into, they'll definitely go into construction this summer. So 7 schools in BPS will be getting new windows this summer. Last year, in 2016, we submitted another 7 statements of interest. It was for West Roxbury Education Complex, Jackson Man K-8, the McCormick Middle School, Dever Elementary School, Boston Latin, Channing, and Condon. Through the MSBA review process, we submitted those in February of 2016. MSBA then undertakes a review process, reviewing the hard copy submission and visiting the schools themselves to make sure that they fall within the program requirements. Unfortunately, 2 of those schools they deemed needed more work than just the building system replacements. They were the West Roxbury Education Complex and in Jackson Man. They felt that more significant work was needed at those 2 schools. They, however, invited 5 of these schools into their into the ARP program. Throughout the summer, we came back to this body. You appropriated $600,000 for the study phase. They designed through the summer. And at the most recent MSBA board meeting in February, they approved $9 million worth of boiler and roof work at, so there'll be boilers at the Condon, Channing, and Boston Latin, and roof replacements at the Dever and the McCormick, possibly this upcoming summer if the funding is in place at the right time. If not, they'll be going into construction in the summer of 2018.
Right. And most of these repair programs are done through the summer and don't affect the start of school. Have we ever had any instances where, well, I think I remember the Edison had some issues with the roof years ago, but other than that, it hasn't impacted the start of the school year in any of the...
I think in the past, a lot of the work over the summer has been concluded prior to the start of school.
Right, that's a major effort of ours to make sure that that doesn't happen. There have been times when it's come a little close, just because of the schedule and things that happen during normal construction cycles, but we make great effort to minimize or negate the impact of school opening.
Okay. Councilor Zaka?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you for presenting here and for all your work. I just have one question right now and then one observation. For docket 0339, the one that's earlier in the process, do you have a dollar amount or an estimate on what the total scope of the work would be, or what we're expecting to get from the MSBA if approved?
Sure. We understand the reimbursement rate for 2017, 2018 is 65.47%. We haven't, the total cost will be dependent upon which projects move forward. Ideally, we'll get all 11. But one of the things that MSBA stresses is that collaborative effort between all districts and their authority, so that we really don't scope out even an estimated cost in advance of going forward with them. That will be done once we hopefully move forward in their process. So we'll have a better idea probably in a couple months.
Oh, thank you. And then note that the Tobin K-8 is listed in Roxbury. It's actually in Mission Hill. I know Councilor Jackson has been trying to claim Mission Hill as part of his district for some time, and I think it's important that we note on the record that the Tobin is in Mission Hill. But I'm excited to see that they're on there. It's obviously really an important resource for the people in my district. So thank you. That's all I have right now. Thank you.
Councilor McCarthy?
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. Brian Calton, welcome. My question's fairly brief. Where does this stand with the overall strategic plan, and when is the strategic plan actually we're gonna see it?
So by strategic plan, I believe you're referring to Build BPS, our 10-year master plan. Excellent. So in my opening remarks, I was thinking I could have mentioned that as well. These, the 11 schools that we are presenting now are actually a byproduct of that work. So through the Build BPS process, there was a full school facility assessment that was done, and where it looked at building systems in its entirety. And so we used that information and literally went through their list and said, okay, based on what the team has arrived and based on the condition of the building and the educational facility effectiveness, we wanted to make sure that these projects were in concert with that. So this is actually, one could consider this the beginning, the first steps as a byproduct of that master planning process. Moving forward, there are 9 principles in the master plan that will guide the work that happens next. So there's a community process that's getting mapped out that will actually allow us to come up with the specific activities. But one of the things we wanted to make sure we did was include community input into what the actual activities become going forward. So you can look at these 11 schools as initial work that's going to happen as we move forward, and then more work will continue.
Okay, so maybe I was just mistaken. I thought there, at some point in time, we were going to be able to review, for my sake, would be District 5. I could review, what do the Bates need? What does the Hemingway need or the Roosevelt need? What does the Chittick need? What does the Channing need? And then kind of go through. And I thought that was how this was going to go. So there's going to be a community process as far as what?
To bring together the principles. So for instance, the plan does speak to those schools specifically. It says specifically the Channing, as you mentioned, has issues, I'll say, with certain of its building systems. And so now we know what needs to happen, but it needs to be done in concert with the rest of the plan, because the plan also speaks to educational needs and also other activities that will happen that is a byproduct of the community process. So when that comes together, the last piece, when the community gets to weigh in on what was presented in the plan, then we'll be able to then speak to, okay, now this is the next work that's going to happen moving forward.
Okay, so last question, I promise. So when you say community, you mean the BPS community or the actual neighborhood community?
Neighborhood community, the community at large. So they will.
So I don't understand. So if we spent all this money on this plan, let's just say we're looking at the Mozart School, and we look at the Mozart and it needs $6 million worth of work. Just saying.
Yep.
How would the community have input on what that money is going to be spent on?
So the $6 million worth of work might be as it relates to the bricks and mortar, say, right? The roof, the window, the boilers. But there's also other work that needs to happen inside the classroom to make sure that the Mozart's able to present a 21st century learning environment. So instead of only having a bricks and mortar view of the world, this plan is to make sure it's all encompassing. So it's an educational and facilities master plan. So we need to make sure that the community has weighed in on the educational aspects as well. We're not asking the community to say, how bad is the roof? But we are asking the community to say, what do you want to have happen inside the classroom? How do you want 21st century principles like collaborative learning and project-based learning to occur? So it's that conversation that needs to catch up with the bricks and mortar side, and then once that's in place, then we can move forward smartly.
Right. I think the conversation, the problem that's going to come about is that, again, if you have everybody trying to earmark or plan their own school, then you're going to end up with, everybody tried to plan their own starting time, and now we have 8 million starting time. So everybody tried to plan their own ending time, and now this is where we begin to have problems. So just, I know you guys are the experts, but a little consistency would probably be better than having everybody throw their ideas out.
True. And so as the project should naturally occur, we'll end up into an area where we do have the consistency. We've heard from the various voices. We've looked at what the opportunities are, and we will come up with a district approach as opposed to a more of a one-off or a localized approach.
Thank you. Councilor Martina.
I'm all set. I'm all set.
Councilor O'Malley.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback a little bit on Council McCarthy's questions, because I think it's beyond frustration at this point. 6 years ago this very month, I called for my first hearing order, and it was on a facilities plan for the Boston Public Schools in reference to the Agassiz School closing in December of 2010. This was March of 2011. In that time, the former Agassiz building stayed closed. Now 2 schools are in, both are growing and bursting at the seams. So, I appreciate work that has been done. I appreciate the fact that there's a great sort of beta website up, which I've used, which is very, it holds a lot of information. But, Carlton, with all due respect, and I know we're going off topic. This is about the MSBA. Of course, I support it. We all support it. It's great. We, for years, never tapped into this resource, and thrilled that 2 schools are from my district are in this list, and I can think of 7 others that would benefit. But just since we have you, there's a real frustration with the council and with BPS families and even non-BPS families that we are continuously dragging our heels on the Build BPS plan and when we're going to actually have a thorough game plan in place. And I take your point about having more community engagement. Of course, that's important, but it's also, I'm hearing a little of we're going to continue to kick this can down the road. So I guess maybe you answered and I just didn't hear it or didn't comprehend it. But to Tim's question, when are we going to actually begin the process of engaging and working and having honest conversations about the master facilities plan going forward?
Councilor O'Malley, I do understand your question and respect your question. The best way I can answer is to say that as we were going forward, we considered there was one more step that needed to take place. And although there was some thought about coming up with an actual concrete prescriptive plan that said we're going to do X, Y, and Z over this time frame, the one piece that was missing was the community voice. And so because we know how important that is to make sure that we are hearing from our families and hearing that what we're proposing is at least they had a chance to weigh in on what the range of opportunities are out there and how we can approach them, that we're anticipating in the next 6-9 months that this will come to conclusion, that we will have heard from the families. We'll have had a chance to let people review the document, which, as you know, is quite lengthy, and have a chance to digest it and say, okay, now we understand what we're talking about. Now we understand what you're offering, what the range of possibilities are. We also understand that, we can't do everything everywhere. We're not going to be able to build, brand new schools in every corner of the city if someone so desires, just because that's not financially feasible. So we have to, within the realm of what's possible, what's feasible, what's appropriate, we should be able to come together with that type of information in the very near term.
6 to 9 months.
That's what I believe to be the time frame. I'm a little out of school here because we haven't actually said what the end date would be, but as I'm hearing the conversation develop, it sounds like it's going to be within that time frame because, again, we're trying to make sure that we're getting out to all the various neighborhoods and school communities, and as you know, that there are quite a number of them, and we don't want to run the risk of not hearing from someone, as you know the case.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for today's presentation. I'll be moving on this on Wednesday. Yeah, sure.
Sorry,
Brian.
just one
Yeah.
point of clarification I'd like to make on the appropriation for the $9.8 million. Seeing as it is a capital appropriation, I believe it's going to require 2 votes.
Gotcha. Yes, correct.
Just wanted to make sure that was.
Thanks. Yeah, right. Well, be safe and well over the next few days, and hopefully we'll have our first vote on Wednesday.
Thank you very much.
This hearing is adjourned.
Adjourned.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.